Are you surprised that Jesus said that we should hate our parents, kids, spouses, siblings, families, life? I was too. So let's get to it. Hey Internet, my name is Jeff and I'm a pastor, and today we're doing the second installment in a series that we've been calling
Dang, Jesus!
And we've been calling it that because we're looking at some of the passages, events, sayings in Jesus' life and ministry that when we read them, we can't help but say,
Dang, Jesus!
And today we're looking at one that's maybe especially shocking, probably because we avoid talking about it so much. This is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, verse 26. It's just one verse, so I'm going to read it out loud for you right now. This is Jesus talking to a crowd. He says, "Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even life itself, cannot be my disciple." This is a big one, right? Jesus is all about peace and love and reconciliation and all that, and now he's saying that we need to hate our families, and he's sure to go into all of the details. Spouses, children, mothers, fathers, siblings. Jesus is saying that we need to hate all of these or else we cannot be his disciples. Now, I'll tell you that when I was a teenager and I first started reading the Bible and going to Bible studies and youth group and Sunday school classes and things like that, I came across this passage and I asked somebody about it, and this was the interpretation that I was given. And by the way, this is an interpretation that you'll find on a lot of blogs that talk about this and a lot of websites that try to address this passage. The interpretation was basically this, that you should love Jesus so much that your love for everybody else in your life should look like hate. No, that is not what Jesus is trying to say here. But still, how do we make sense of this? And especially in a gospel like Luke, because the Gospel of Luke begins with an angel coming to a guy named Zechariah and saying that his wife is going to have a child in her old age, his wife Elizabeth. And this child was supposed to be named John. This is John the Baptist. And what's said about John the Baptist is that it specifically says, he will turn the hearts of parents to their children. So John, who was Jesus' cousin and sort of paved the way for Jesus' ministry, we're told that his life and ministry would be all about reconciliation, and his ministry would be pointing to Jesus. And now Jesus is saying that parents should actually hate their children? What's going on here? How do we actually make sense of this beyond just saying some nonsense about how our love for Jesus should be so great that our love for our family members should look like hatred? There are a couple of important things to remember here. One is that hyperbole was a very popular literary device for ancient Jewish rabbis. So yeah, saying something as heavy-handed as hate your family, that would be something that ancient rabbis would say. And in fact, we find Jesus using hyperbole all the time. I mean, just consider the fact that he says, if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it into the fire. Even people who claim to take the Bible literally are remarkably intact in their, hands and arms, right? We know that that's hyperbole. And so we can look at this passage and faithfully say, well, maybe this is just hyperbole. But I also think that there's something else going on here, which is that the words love and hate in Greek, which is the language that Luke is writing in, the words love and hate are covenantal terms. They're contractual terms. And here's what I mean by that, just as an example. I have a cell phone that I'm filming on right now. What's up, cell phone? And the particular carrier that I have, I won't mention them on the internet. I'll just use their initials. AT&T. Oh, see what I did there? My cell phone carrier is AT&T, which means that I have a contract with AT&T. And that means that I don't have a contract with T-Mobile or Sprint or Verizon. Is Sprint even around anymore? I don't know. It means that I don't have a contract with Sprint or T-Mobile or Verizon because I have a contract with AT&T. Now, if we were in the ancient world, here's what I would say about that. I would say, I love AT&T and I hate Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint. Because those were the contractual words that were used. Do I actually love AT&T? No, of course I don't love AT&T. Do I hate Verizon and Sprint and T-Mobile? No, of course I don't hate them. Those are ridiculous terms when it comes to our relationships with companies. But if we remember that these terms are contractual terms, then yeah, it actually makes some sort of sense. So when Jesus says you should hate your family if you're going to be my disciple, Jesus is saying, remember where your loyalties ultimately lie. And this can actually be a very freeing thing, especially in a society where your family ties define you for better and for worse. It's like Jesus is saying, you don't have to be defined by the people who have been defining you in a toxic way. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, you're in a covenant with me. This isn't meant to be weird and stifling and aggressive on the part of Jesus. This is meant to be freeing. I mean, as a pastor, I can't tell you how many people have justified staying in abusive relationships because they're quoting scripture about how they need to be loyal to their spouses or loyal to their parents. Ultimately, your loyalty is to Jesus. You see how that can be very good news for somebody who's suffering at the hands of an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship? You know, another way to be thinking about this might be something like marriage. When I'm doing a wedding, at one point, I'll look at each of the people who are getting married and I'll make them make a vow that says that they will forsake all others and be faithful to their spouse. Now, forsaking all others sounds very heavy, doesn't it? It kind of sounds similar to this whole thing about hating your parents, right? But really what it's getting to is, where's your ultimate fidelity lying when it comes down to it? So look, we can look at this passage and try to sidestep it or explain it away by saying that Jesus is saying that we should be so loyal to him that our loyalty to our family members looks like hatred. But that's sketchy to me. That just sounds very, very sketchy. Or we can look at this passage and see an invitation on the part of Jesus to be ultimately loyal to somebody who means good for us in the midst of other relationships that might be toxic. All right, that's it for this week. Click like, click subscribe so that you know whenever a new video comes out, but also rest assured they will be here on Tuesday mornings, usually. Leave a comment, especially if you've heard a different interpretation of this passage, because I would love to hear other interpretations of this passage and how other people have looked at them. Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly in the comments section there. That was a horrible invitation for a comments section, wasn't it? Comments sections are usually ugly. Use your discretion. Anyway, grace and peace.